you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's chat's been brought to you by International Horse College. We have a mission to improve the welfare of horses throughout the world through the safe education of riders, handlers and trainers, and that's what these chats are all about. Registered Training Organisation 31352. Today's guest is Alex Brown. I'm enjoying introducing Alex again. She came in episode 185, and if you'd like to go back to 185, you'll find out about the gift she received from the Queen when she rode at badminton 4-star on 5 consecutive occasions, which is no mean feat at all. So I think she's well and truly able to talk about this topic. So we're going to talk about 10 tips for improving your cross-country riding. Alex, did you want to say anything about an overall tip or anything first of all, or we just start on the first tip?
Hi, Glenys. Yeah, I think we can probably pretty much get into it. I think just in general, it's obviously been a bit of a while since I competed at top level, but when it comes to really cross-country riding, the principles are basically all the same. And if you get it right from the start, then you're going to avoid issues later on, and you're going to set yourself up for, whatever level you end up competing at. So,
okay.
So some of my points might seem sort of a bit like common sense, a bit obvious, but as with many things, a lot of the times it takes someone to actually almost point out the obvious before you go, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So and a lot of the time, it is the very obvious that you can kind of sometimes miss, and that makes sort of a big difference.
Yes. All right. Now we'll start off first of all, and you're going to talk about walking the course, and you've underlined properly. So I think if you talk about that, and we were looking at route markers, good lines, walking all alternative, but if you can talk about introducing the course and some tips you'd give about walking the course.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So again, it probably sounds a bit sort of self-explanatory. Of course, you walk the course, but there's walking the course, and then there's walking the course properly. And I put, so this is sort of one of, sort of number one, just because I was talking to a couple of my younger pupils, I guess, a bit lately, and just sort of was asking them, well, when you walk a course, whether it's jumping cross country, what do you actually look for? And they were a bit sort of looked at me a bit blankly to say, well, just to know where to go, the course is, or what the jump is. I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but how do you do that? And what are you looking for? And what, and it was all a bit sort of, hadn't really thought about that. So, and I guess that's sort of where it's, you can walk the course, or you can actually, pay attention and think about each fence and how you'll actually get there.
Yep.
So, it's not just about you jump your fence and then you go on a mad gallop across the field because the next fence is somewhere over there. And then once you've had your mad gallop, you look up and you're like, where's the fence? It's, as soon as you've landed, you know exactly where you're aiming for. You've already picked out when you walk the course that you need to aim for that tree on that hill, and you ride to that. And then, once you get to that, you're looking for the third bush along on the left, which is where you have to do a nice turn, or where you have to sit up and do your half halt. So it's very much looking for obvious markers that just remind you exactly what you should be doing when.
Yep. And
then that gives you the good lines. And I think one thing a lot of people don't do, you're walking the course, you're looking ahead and you're looking where you're going, and you're like, yep. And you get to the fence, and if you actually stop and look behind you and look where you've come from, I mean, it sounds so simple, but that just is so amazing. Of what is the best route to get from where I've just come, and that just kind of confirms that you've sort of got your markers in the right place. And then also, when you get to sort of a bit higher level, there's obviously you get your tricky fence, and then you get your sort of slightly longer but slightly easier alternatives. And again, as simple as it sounds, it is so important to walk all the alternatives, even if you're walking the course going, I'm definitely doing the corner here. I'm definitely going the corner. My horse is great at corners. I'm going here. Yeah, I know the long route's a bit, you just go over back 3 and a turn around the corner, but you have to walk all the alternatives and know exactly, again, your route markers, your where you're turning, the terrain and stuff, because things do change. That's rings a personal bell for me, because at my first Badminton, I did exactly that. It was only I think it was the sixth fence or the 8th fence, and I was going straight route. It was the quarry. I was like, yep, definitely going straight route. But by the time I came into the 10-minute box, my trainer sort of said, look, it has caused so much problems. People, they're landing on the forehand, they're not riding it properly. Don't risk a stupid mistake so early on. It's your first Badminton, it'll mess it all up. Go the long route, play it safe. But because I'd walked the course 6 times or however many times to walk it, and I had walked the long routes, but I hadn't really digested what it was. And I ended up getting a run out going the long route.
Did you?
And totally, blew my mind and went, oh my God, what am I doing? And then, all went horribly wrong, but then I kind of snapped back in and then had a great round after that. But it was such a silly mistake, just purely for not having got every, option ready, so that you can change and you can react and you can think very dynamically and, react to conditions and everything. So
I was going to ask you how many times, but I think you answered that when you said about 6.
Yeah, so first 3 day, definitely. You do your initial walk just to go, oh, crikey, it's big. And then you do a bit better walk.
But to sort of get the location, isn't it? Just to sort of find out where the hills are and where everything is.
Exactly, and then each time you walk, you're drilling down a bit further, and then you're planning all your alternatives, and I keep, I walk as many times as I can, and I got in a bit of a kind of a tradition where I had to walk it, even though you've walked it from the Wednesday onwards. Saturday morning, I still had to walk it at like 5 a.m. in the morning before anyone was up. I had to do my final on my own, kind of just get in the zone, kind of thing. So obviously at a one day event, that's not possible. Unless you've got a number of different courses at different levels of horses, you're walking each one just once, but that's kind of a different scenario. But and again, that's important. So at a one day event, if you are doing different courses on different horses, you have to pay so much attention. And even, you go, oh yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It's just a rail and a galloping fence and whatever. You still have to give each fence kind of some respect. And even if it's an easy galloping fence, you have to pay attention, because you do make stupid mistakes in the heat of the gallop.
Yep. All right. Look, the second one you've got is know your horse.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of links in nicely to above with the course walking, because obviously every horse is different. So different jumping styles, different galloping styles, different stride lengths. So it's no point sort of walking it's a couple of big boxes with a nice 2 strides in the middle. If you've got a big rangy horse, you might it might be a short 2 strides. If you've got a small horse, it might struggle. And again, totally related to that is, paying attention to the conditions of the ground and the terrain as well. If it's a bit boggy, that's obviously going to make the distances so much harder. If, the terrain, if it's undulating going into it, or if it's downhill, if it's uphill, again, has huge impact on, if you've got a bounce, whether it's going to be 3 strides or 4 strides, the ground is going to sort of play a big part in that. So, so you need to think about the conditions and the terrain, how that affects the fence generally, and then on sort of layered on top of that, how that affects your particular horse. Too.
So just talking about, because you talked before about when you're walking the course, if you're riding 2 different levels, 2 different horses, 2 different levels, if you're riding a number of different horses, as you're walking the course, you're thinking about how each individual horse is going to go, say that, they might all be, you might be going up or down a hill on, say, all two or all three horses, but you're thinking about each individual horse as you're going through up and down.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, because it does make such, a huge difference to the horse. I'm just trying to think, an example. I had a 3-star horse who was who's a little 16-hander, was very small and compact, big scopy jumper, very small and compact. And we were I think it was at a 2-star, and was going into water, going slightly downhill.
Yes.
A very long one stride. And I had this little horse, and I had another horse, which, just did a beautiful, nice, cantered in, one stride out. But as I was walking the course, I actually turned to my trainer at the time and said, I bet you Shorty will put 2 in here. I'm like, I bet you he'll put 2 in.
Yep.
And I didn't ride it for 2. I still rode it for 1, but I was sat up ready, because I thought he'll just pop a little, because it's water as well. It backed him off a bit, and he just popped a little stride in. It was all very neat and very cute, but it was like a nice one stride and a little pat, and then over. Because, in my head, I was like, this could happen. Like I said, I wasn't riding for it to happen, but it's like, I need to be balanced, I need to be ready to sit up so that I'm not, propelled over the top. And so, again, you've got to think what the textbook would say, and then how that,
But I think that tip there, know your horse. If you didn't know that horse, you might have come undone at that particular fence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. The next one you've got is rhythm and balance. And, I think this one someone might discount it a little bit. Well, of course you could have rhythm and balance, but do you want to talk about that?
Yes, exactly. And it's part of, I think if you ask any of the, the good cross-country riders, what's the most important thing about cross-country riding, they would say rhythm and balance, whereas anyone else would be like, well, why? What does that mean? And they're like, it's obvious, your fastest horses cross-country are not the ones that gallop flat out, and then you're pulling up, and then you're wasting your time pulling up, and then you're firing at the fence, and then you're galloping flat out again. It's all about getting into a beautiful balance, and it should be you're just, you're faster speed, but you've got that nice rhythm, and you're riding. So if it's just a single fence, a big brush of a ditch in front, you just keep moving, you just keep galloping into that. You sit up, slightly, you half halt, so you stride, and you just keep riding. So everything is smooth. You're not fiddling. You're not galloping flat out, hauling, and then setting up again. It's all about getting in the rhythm and the balance, and that comes back to back to your basic schooling, back to your cantering over poles on the ground and your single fences, and it seems, as you say, it seems such a bizarre thing to say, but I think that is so important. It's all about, and it's also that saves, it helps the horse. If you're galloping flat out, then you're hauling on its mouth and you're pulling it up. One, not only you're wasting huge amounts of time at each fence, you're also wasting huge amounts of energy, both your own and your horses.
Yep.
So, if you can just get into a nice rhythm, easy, balanced and going forward and in control, and it's so much, it's better for the horse, it's better for you, it's better all round. A bit like, as I say, it goes back to when you're in the arena and you're practicing, you're doing your canter poles on the ground, or you're doing your small fences and just cantering figure eights and looping and related distances, and it all should just be the nice sort of regular balance and rhythm, albeit faster.
Yep.
So, and that also kind of, links into, which I probably...
So number 4, I think you've got riding to time.
Practice riding at that fast. You need to get in that balance, you need to practice. You can't just think, okay, I'll go cross-country day. What speed? You need to actually go out and think, what speed should I be going? Go and measure your... If you're doing pony 50 meters per minute or whatever, go and measure your markers and practice riding at that speed, so you actually get a feel for what you should be doing. So you're not galloping flat out, pulling up. Am I fast enough? Am I too slow? Am I too slow? You know what you should be doing.
Yep.
And then sort of, as you say, so linking to my next point, that I guess the sort of the time savers, and that's, you know, so the approach to the landing is where all your time is lost. So, you know, if you are fighting to pull up and you're almost coming back, you know, galloping and coming back to you know, trying to pull your horse back up, you know, each fence you're losing a couple of seconds. If you've got 30 fences on the course, you know, you're a minute over already, kind of thing.
Yep.
And also it's, you know, so you're nice, smooth, keeping the rhythm going into it, keeps the pace, keeps the rhythm, you're not fighting. And then as you land, you just straight away, you forget that fence and you're moving on. So you're not sort of landing in a heap, going, oh, great, okay, now where's the next fence? Again, that's you know, it's even half a second, that's still, you know, half a minute around the course or whatever. So it's landing, it's moving. So you're approaching your landing is where, you know, you can save huge amounts of time, and again, it links back into better, you know, saves the horse's energy as well, which then obviously helps with your time as well, because the horse isn't so exhausted when it gets to the end. And it's very, you know, every second or half a second just adds up so much, and it makes a huge difference by the time you get to the end of the course.
And then certainly the higher the level, the faster the speed, so the more crucial that those last 2 points are.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Because, you know, as you saw at badminton this weekend, you know, nobody got inside the time. The time is tight, as it should be. So it's all about, you know, riding as efficiently as you can, but without having the horse coming in exhausted. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say any more about that.
I think you've emphasised the point. Yeah. All right. Now, talking about start and finish, would you like to make that? That's point number 5. So start and finish. Yeah,
and again, sort of common sense you'd think, but, you know, it really, you know, if you actually start how you mean to go on, you know, that sets the tone. It sets the mentally for yourself, for your horse. You know, even, you know, the first sentence is normally something pretty small, pretty easy, but, you know, that doesn't give an excuse to just be a bit careless and kind of roll up into it. You need to come out the starting gate as you mean to go on, and then everyone's on the program. You and the horse on the program. You're on the same page, and then the same with the finish. You know, it works both ways. Yeah, either you can have had a great round and you know, in your head you're celebrating already. You just amazing at badminton, and the last fence, you know, is pretty tiny in comparison to what you just jumped. But it would just be silly to do something stupid at the last fence. You know, totally miss it. You're potentially not gonna, or you would hope at that level, not have faults. But you know, if you hit it badly or you know, horse runs awkwardly, that can affect you. You know, the lameness and the soundness of the horse the next day. So everything, you know, you don't disregard the finish if you've done a great round. And again, if, you know, on the sort of other end of the spectrum, you know, if your horse is tired and it's, you know, it's worked really hard, but you're sort of having to nurse it home a bit, again, respect the last fence, because, you know, you don't want to end in a heap on the last fence. You want to just, you know, nurse your horse over it and get home safely.
Yep. Yeah.
So again, fairly, you know, again, you think common sense, but it's, you know, it really, I think if you start positively and punchy and, we're here to attack this course on the first fence, but then, and again, on the last fence, you just give it some respect, even though it's probably the smallest fence on the course and the most inconsequential. You still need to ride it. Don't finish before you finished.
Okay. Now, you've talked quite a lot about riding to time and moving along and maintaining rhythm and continually moving. We talked about the faster speed. What about the balance there between the faster speed and the accuracy for narrow fences or corners?
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see, so nowadays it's pretty much every second fence is either a narrow, a skinny fence or a corner, isn't it? It's you have to be able to be riding, you know, you and the horse have to be able to jump these fences, and they're not, you know, on angles or skinny or corners. And again, that sort of comes back to your sort of your groundwork and your basics and your practicing beforehand. And, you know, straight away you need to be, you know, ensuring that your horse is straight and that it's listening to you, that you can jump on the angles, that you can, you've got your narrow fences, so you start with your guides on each side, then you slowly move one, jump it slowly with the other, make sure you can, jump either way. And it just sort of basically really links back to that basic training of, straightness and your gymnastics and your grid work and your, it's not, you have to, as you said, it's not just about galloping and jumping. You have to have that accuracy as well. So you have to have that training and that, the horse has to be constantly listening to you, and you have got to be switched on and know, and again, thinking back to the courses, know exactly your route. So you're dead straight, or you're coming at the corner at exactly the right angle that you need to be, and you've got your trees lined up and your markers, so that you're giving yourself the best chance to get over it.
Okay.
And we thought, there's plenty of practicing and sort of exercises that you can do at home.
Yes. Yes.
Get it right.
Well, I think all of it is it doesn't just all happen on the competition day. There's a lot of work goes in at home. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, what about water? We hear about some horses that have just got a bit of a boogie towards water and really back off when it comes to water. What can we do to introduce the young horse to water, make it a bit of fun, just to avoid those future issues, bad memories?
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of, I think whether your horse is good at jumping into water or not, it all comes from kind of how you first introduce it and approach it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to make sure that when you're first going and you're practicing your water, it is a good experience and a fun experience. You want to make sure, you want to try and find a water feature somewhere that's, it's shallow, but it's open, it's got good footing, and, it's inviting. I think if you don't always have access to good courses, it's quite tempting to, you've got your boggy little creek at the bottom of the field to try and, use that as a practice, which is not going to be encouraging for the horse. So you really want to take your time, and it does, really does pay off if you start off and you actually invest in, going to a course and really practicing through a good water jump, and just getting them, start off really slowly. They're just walking through, they're just at ease. Maybe you've got the buddy walking along with you, so everything's good. Then, you're just walking in and out. It's all very open. It's all very easy. Then you progress to trotting and, not even jumping into the water to begin with. Then maybe when you first introduce a jump, you'll sort of trot through the water, do a couple of, just up a bank out, not jumping up a bank, a slope out, and then a little fence sort of on the land, and then you can, just playing around, and then you can slowly bring it back the other way. And just really take it slowly, be positive, no messing around, but it's got to be fun, because you can sort of, and take it slowly. A lot of people think, well, we'll just, gallop the horse through the water and it'll be fine, and we'll use speed to make it happen, which is fine. You'll get away with that for a few times, but it'll be the fear and the speed that's getting you over the water jump. So then when, you start doing more, it gets a bit bigger, you get to the next level, the horse has got that fear and it's not confident, and you can't get away with it so long. So you have to, just establish that ground lines of, or that base, that it's fun, the horse is happy to jump into water. Because to begin with, they will super over the jump. So, they don't, the water is such a stopping force when they land. It's really quite a thing for the horses. So it has to be, introduced calmly. And one thing I find, a lot of water jumps obviously have banks coming in or out, which even on low banks, you kind of go, oh, well, that's a nice way to drop in or jump out. But it's actually, if you're going to start your first introduction to water, if possible, it's better not to use a bank, just because jumping up a bank, again, is a bit more tricky for a horse. Coming out of water, it makes it even trickier. So you're more sort of, again, a really over jump, and possibly jump awkwardly. So, I think to begin with, don't, use a nice, easy little log or little jump coming out of the water. Don't at the first jump out of the water, up a bank or up steps kind of thing.
Okay. So a slope when you're first teaching, just like a bit of a beach in and out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and start slowly, because again, cantering through water is, with all the water and splashing it, again, is quite daunting for a horse. So really go back to basics and just walking and trotting and playing around, and then, a little pop of fences and stuff.
Yeah. And just to go over that too, you had said about jumping out first rather before you jump in.
Yes, and not even jumping. So you sort of trot out up the bank and then maybe it's 1 or 2 strides as you jump out. So it's not a big deal. It's just the water and there's a jump. Oh, that's good. And then you can come the other way and there's a jump, there's a water, but the horse has got plenty of time to see the water and work it out. And that's sort of the thing. If you're going in too fast and you've got to jump on the edge of the water and the horse isn't sure and you're going fast, the horse hasn't got time to process what it's doing and it can't see where it's going to land. And that's when, it'll either stop or he'll either jump or he'll tip or he'll leave a leg. So, the first one, you just have something small and little, a bit away so the horse can go, okay, I've got room to land. And then I can pop into the water and it's all fun and it's all good. And then you can slowly bring it so that he has to jump off the edge of the water, into the water, things like that. But he'll have got in his mind that, I know this is doable. I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
And keeping it, obviously you want forward impulsion, and you need to be riding forward and riding strongly, but using speed that's speed and fear, which, like I say, will get you through a few times, but it's going to end in tears eventually.
Yeah.
The horse needs to have enough time to know what he's doing, process how he's going to land and see what he's doing.
Good.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com.
Now, what about ditches? Because, often horses are, if they're not worried about water, they're worried about ditches. Anything, different or the same for ditches?
Yeah, and that's kind of a similar approach to it. Again, it's not using the speed and kind of the blindness to get over it. When you're starting off, it's doing it very slowly and calmly, just letting them walk or trot through the ditches. Obviously, you'd never let them sort of sort it out themselves. You don't let them stop or turn away, but, they're always going forward, but they can take the time to see what they're doing and sort of work it out themselves. And then sort of once, so that they know that they're confident to jump it, and then they kind of get, so the ditch isn't really the problem. They become, I guess, the big ditches are more rider scarers than horse scarers because, if you're then once they're jumping ditches, all they're looking for is, like with any fence, you're looking at the top rail. The horse's eyes should be, looking at, I want to jump the top rail. So if you've got, a big ditch and a big fence, as long as you've got a good balance, a good rhythm, you're riding into it, and you're riding sort of strongly forward and not looking down, not sort of hooking and pulling the horse, and you're looking up over the fence, the horse is looking up over the fence, and it's just, it's part of the fence and it doesn't become a great deal, a big deal. So when the so you need to be, you need to start off slowly and let them understand it and not rush it and do a lot of repetition. But once they're jumping ditches and fences, it's a matter of, you're riding, you're not galloping flat, you're just like riding strongly in balance and you're jumping the rail and the horse is looking at the rail.
Okay. And
then a bit like, and then if it's a ditch, I guess the other side, if it's a ditch, say in we don't have coffins anymore, do we? In and outs or, sunken roads. It's again, it's the same principle as water. You kind of want to be short and punchy approach, not fast, because again, they need to be able to see where they're landing. So again, it's not that, oh my God, we'll just go faster, use momentum to get us over the first bit and over the ditch. It's give them time to see what they're doing, be strong and be punchy into the fence, but they need to be able to see where they're going to put their legs so that they don't either stop or two, put the back, quite often you see a horse, in the central road, a horse will just put his back, he'll see the ditch at the last minute and put his back legs down on the fence because he hasn't had time to see what he's doing.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Okay. Now, the next tip you've got for us, number 9, is practice. And you've actually split this. It's obviously pretty important because you've got it split it into 2. One's for the arena and, one's on the course. But tell us about practice and how we can improve our cross-country riding through practice.
Yeah, and this I guess we touched on earlier when we were talking about angles and narrow fences and corners. And I think, you said you don't do your schooling at the event. You have to practice this stuff, and it comes back to your straightness and your balance and your rhythm. And this, and if you don't have, not everyone's got access to amazing cross-country courses every day of the week.
Sure.
Be nice, but but it is easy to, recreate these things in an arena. You're doing your bounces and your lines and your angles. You can make your corners in the arena. You can, make little ditches with water trays. And it is down to, just be doing that as a regular part of your practice. With your grid work and your gymnastics, that's, great for keeping them straight and getting them agile when they're bouncing. And then you can set up angles, making sure, as I said before, that, you're practicing both ways. Your corners you can set up quite easy in the arena, and all of these you can start really easily and then just slowly, make it sort of harder and harder.
Yep.
But you can't just go, oh, we've got cross country next week. Oh, she'll be right. You do have to, as with it all comes back to you set your foundations, you set your groundwork and your pole work, and it makes it so much easier, in the long run, so that when you are riding at speed, you still have that. Actually, you can still keep your horse dead straight, and he is listening to you, so that when you suddenly go, oh, I'm going to jump this on the angle, he's like, oh, okay, yep. I'm with you. I know exactly where you're going. It's, it's not such a big deal.
Okay.
And then my part 2 was, it's all well and good doing it in the arena, but
the arena's flat and it's
the arena's flat and enclosed, and you can't really get the speed you necessarily want to. You have to, that's your homework, that's your foundation stuff, but you do need to practice the real thing, I guess. And as we said earlier, the terrain makes such a difference to a simple looking fence can be completely changed by different terrain, or if it's up or it's down or it's undulating or whatever. So, nothing beats practicing on the cross country and, practicing riding at the kind of speeds that you need to be riding, and knowing that you can, sit up and do your half halt and things do happen. It's not going to happen as quickly as when you're in the arena, but, you have to have that schooling so that you're not fighting, taking, the whole way down the hill fighting to try and slow up.
Sure.
It's happening when you're asking it to happen. And then that kind of, builds your confidence as well. Also, helps with the control aspect, as you said. If you've suddenly find you've got control issues,
yes.
better to find out before than on the course.
Yep.
So, and I know it's easier said than done. We don't all have great cross country course on our sort of doorstep, but if you're going to sort of spend the time, the effort, and everything else to go travel wherever to an event, and it's all going to end in disaster, why not spend the effort, driving in an hour and hiring a cross country course and practicing? At the time you think, well, is that a waste of time? But it's so not.
It's part of the preparation. Yeah,
it's part of the preparation. Exactly. It's the same. If you drive to your Gallops, so you come to work, or you drive wherever, it kind of needs to become. It's an important investment piece in making sure that when you actually get to the event, it's makes it all go smoothly.
Okay. And then, Alex, the last point you've got is you, the rider. What can the rider do? Like, we've talked all this about the training, the horse and, the course and everything else. But for improving cross-country riding, what should the rider be focused to make sure that they're going to be ready to ride that cross-country course?
Yeah, and that's, and I think we sort of spend so much time, getting the horse perfect that we actually forget sometimes about what we should actually be doing.
Yes, yes.
And, it's, again, sort of simple things of, are you actually practicing riding, at those speeds and, with slightly shorter stirrups, if you're doing, a big course, it's a long time that you're riding like that. You need the fitness, you need the strength in your legs, you need the balance. Like, you see so many people who just are not used to riding, the 2 point out of the saddle and being in balance with the horse and, getting a weight off the back and, letting the horse actually move underneath and not carry your weight as well as a dead weight on his back. And you'll see people kind of a bit using their hands on the neck, kind of almost sort of swinging, the weights on the hands because they're standing up straight and just sort of balance, swinging a bit on the neck because they're a bit tired and they're like, well, I've got to get my weight out of the saddle, but I'm not actually holding myself up. I'm still, using the horse.
Yes.
You have to have that strength in your seat and your position to help the horse, get your weight off the back, but be balanced and be effective and, be able to react quickly to, what's happening so that, you've got that balance there. And the stamina, I guess, to, by the time you get to the end of a big course, if your horse is tired, you need to be able to work that extra bit harder to get him over the last few fences. You need to not be exhausted so that when he leaves a leg and you're going out the front door, you can actually hang on in there and grip for dear life and scramble yourself back up. And,
sure.
It's not all over. And and I guess it's, it's really that fitness and that the balance, having that you watch the good cross-country riders and they're so balanced and in tune with a horse and so light and, they're not impeding the horse in any way. They're not adding to the weight. They're very, it's all the strength that in their sort of lower legs and their, stop of their hands. And it's really sort of, practicing that and being able to do that and having that commitment as well. I think you have to, when you're riding cross-country, it's all well and good just to think, well, we'll just go fast in the fence, but you've got to ride the fence and you've got to be committed. And as they get bigger, you can't approach a fence uncertain. You've got to have, in your head, you've got to be 100%. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And, and it won't always happen, but you've got to have that commitment, because if you're half-hearted or you're like, oh, my horse doesn't like ditches, oh, my horse doesn't like water, oh, he's not very good on angles, well, then, you're already putting doubts in your mind. You're putting doubts in the horse, and, it's not a good recipe.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just being aware of how you can influence, you can help the horse with, the efficiency and the balance and help them at each fence, but also mentally as well, that you are, prepared for the course too.
And I think, Alex, you've said sort of right through it, that you can get away with a little bit at the lower levels, but the higher the level, the more you keep improving, the more important these tips are for improving your cross-country riding. So I think this one has been a very good one for someone just starting off or just thinking about starting off their cross-country journey, their eventing journey, but even for experienced riders and for coaches too, just something for them to bring home. And I think if anyone's going to put up a couple of cross-country fences, they, if they can put in water, put in ditches and put in a couple of skinnies, just to sort of get all the tricky ones in so that they can do more practice at home. Yeah,
exactly, because it just, as we said, nothing, you can do your homework and whatever, but you have to actually get out there and do the real thing and, you have to practice. And I think because it is sometimes hard to get to places to practice, and you can get away with just turning up on the day and kind of winging it a bit, but that'll only, as you said, that'll only happen for so long. Then the cracks, as you go up a level, as you, do better things, the cracks will potentially start to show, which is why you need to kind of really, put in that effort at from the start, and then everything just so much easier. And if you do hit a hiccup or something goes wrong, it's easy. You haven't got so far to go back. You've got the ground in there, so it's not such a big deal. It's just, okay, well, let's go back and we'll just go back to where we were, and we'll
go over it again.
Just start again, get it all calm, get it happy, get it fun again, and then move forward, as opposed to, well, the horse is just because he's scared and the rider's scared and it's all just out of control, and it's not fun. I'm not safe.
All right. Well, certainly we've enjoyed your tips, and thanks again for coming and talking to us again. And I'm sure we'd love to have you back again, and I'm sure you've got plenty more tips and plenty more information you can give us as well. With your experience, it's great to have you back then as a regular guest. So thanks, Alex. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, guys. It's been lovely speaking to you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.